So human robot, it's a live painting experiment where AI controls a human to make paintings live in public. We are going to be in a space that was a pretend apartment at ground level. It's quite interesting. And I will be there every day, Monday through to Saturday, 15th through the 20th of September, and then again from the 22nd through to the 27th, and also on the 28th will be our closing day. The robot will not be operational that day. It will just be the residue of the 6 artworks and a few videos and the rest for people to look at. So come down from 10 a.m. every day. I'll be in robot mode through to about 4 p.m.
Kia ora, nau mai, haere mai. Welcome to an Urban Dream Brokerage podcast. My name's Jason, I'm the manager and broker, plus in this case, podcaster. As with all things UDB, you can find out all about us and our projects through our website, urbandreambrokerage.org.nz, and social media, namely Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn, while also hosting our podcast on SoundCloud. And obviously this will be shared across all those platforms. So if you don't already, go give us a like on any of those places and share, take in and share our content. We're here today to kōrero about Human Robot, an upcoming project we're promoting by artist Mark Anthony Smith. Mark first approached us earlier this year with this idea of presenting alongside his AI-driven virtual artist self. And now we're working together to bring it to life with the opening on Monday, September the 15th. Enjoy the chat, and to kick things off, let's meet the artist himself. Mark, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Kia ora, Mark Anthony Smith. It's a real pleasure to work with UBD and be so close to having this project actually underway. It's been a lot of toil and testing and a lot of creepiness when I'm dealing with an AI, me responding to myself. Yep.
It's a good introduction, Mark. Thank you.
Yep.
Maybe just to dive into a bit of the background first before we come back to the virtual self of yourself. Do you just want to give us a bit of background about you and who you are and a little bit of how we've ended up here?
So I started off life in Tamaki Makaurau, Papatoetoe. Grew up there, went to high school there, worked at Auckland Uni, didn't do too well at university for a start, so I ran away to Palmerston North and didn't really like Palmerston North, so I ran away to Whanganui, and that's where I went to art school and was at what we called the Key School of the Arts, and that really crunchy period in the late 90s. And it was a great time to be studying art. The place was really booming at that stage, going through an amazing phase. Great place to study because it was quite a quiet place, especially stuck in town. Had 24-hour access to studios. It meant that when I was in second year doing ceramics, and I felt like going across Bell Street in the middle of the night to do some work with clay at 2 a.m. in the morning, it was totally possible. 24-hour studio spaces, great studio spaces and the rest, and a really good, strong cohort of students in design, fashion and fine arts.
Yeah, and it's great to acknowledge that there. It's something that, certainly we're of a similar vintage. Got a few people in common, and that particular art school at that time, I guess for our generation, seemed to have a really big imprint, and many artists that I've worked with, certainly friends along the years, even, back in those days we used to make a beeline up there because there was always interesting things happening. But, for those that aren't familiar, because, things have changed in that sphere, just to acknowledge that. What were the conditions around the school as well? Just thinking of you're alluding to the space that you had, but also thinking of the tutors that you had.
Yeah. No, it was great.
Some deeper observations.
Yeah, it was great. We had really good faculty that we worked with. people who had chosen to be in Whanganui that had options had come from States, or had studied at Elam and Ilam and decided that that was the place for them. There was a very great camaraderie with the lecturers and tutors and rest. So I had some great painting lecturers like Peter Ireland, who really supported me at times when I was struggling. Warwick McLeod, who be sort of friend you end up having quite a few beers with, and had classes that would go for hours analysing films, and then would have after classes which would carry on talking about the main themes. And yeah, and it was a great time. And it was cheap to live, didn't have to have a part-time job, was able to scrounge up whatever I could quite often. And yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And, just to think as well, like the city itself, these days you can firmly see the imprint of that art school, the legacy continuing. It's
Yep.
a wonderful example of a provincial city, or in fact a city anywhere really, but that's kind of put art at its heart, and I think about that beautiful public glass blowing studio, the Quartz Museum that's there, the street art that's available in the place, and the galleries that go on, so the wider community is also, kind of infused that in itself, I guess.
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like that art school had its heyday, but it's done a lot for the place, and it's well known as an art destination now. And now that the new Sargent is open and all that, it's great, a great little place. And yeah, there's still humming along with the Polytech there and the rest. So
Yeah, and I guess it also benefits a little bit. I feel like it's been one of those places that, for artists in our city here in Wellington is, it's become a more expensive city to live in.
yep,
Those emerging artists have often like moved away from the city at times. And I feel like Wanganui's, also been one of the places that's benefited from that.
yep.
That's also helped, with where things are at.
Yeah, it's a place I still have contact with. I still show there almost every year at Space Studio Gallery. Sarah's been really great support, which keeps me ticking along when I haven't had the big ideas like I have been having recently. And yeah, it's a great place. Yeah, I like going back there.
So obviously the school, if we just go back to that, that was obviously then a big influence on you. And then just thinking about like, just chatting about your kind of background here, then what other general influences or artists or movements or anything like that, did that kind of fascinated you and helped shape your career out of that?
Well, I was very much attracted to moving image, even though I was at an art school where moving image wasn't really a thing. Uh, I have a background. My family moved from the UK to New Zealand, so my dad could be the foreman on the first colour TV line in the country. So, and then I was born 18 months after they moved here. So my coming was a part of the advent of colour TV in New Zealand, which was, I can even tell you the date that colour TV started in New Zealand. And that meant I grew up in a household that, well, some people would have a black and white TV and maybe eventually a colour TV. I grew up in a household which had 4 or 5 TVs.
Oh, wow.
Which was quite strange. And also, my dad was able to get a video camera from his work, and this was like a 1979
That's
style
radical.
video camera of a big box to the side which held your VHS tapes, and it was like having a VHS recorder on your side, and then a big cable round to the handheld camera. And I first started playing with that when I was 5. So it's always been, videos is one of these things that I've always sort of come back to and all the rest, and that's a big part of my day job as well. And so yeah, moving image really interested me, and so I've been really much drawn to a lot of artists who worked in those areas. The first time I ever saw Trilogy at what was the Go at Brewster at that stage in 1994, and that clanginess and that kinetic energy and the rest, and then finding out that this guy had also played with bits of film and scratching and colour direct painting onto film stock and the rest. It really intrigued me, and that really Len Lai really linked. As Len Lai would say, I saw the clouds scudding across the sky and realised movement was another thing, and so I went away wagging my tail happily. And so, yeah, here's one very formative thing, and also a lot of expressionist artists and new expressionist artists in the Cobra movement, Carol Apple, crazy fast use of paint. Yeah, that's kind of my style of painting. And experimental animators like Norman McLaren, who was contemporary of Len Lai, and Stan Brakhage, who was famous for sticking bits of moth wings onto celluloid, so and his work Moth Light. Yeah, so those are some of the things, and then also the people just was around my contemporaries.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, that's cool. That's good. That's nice. A nice reference. Some names in there for people that are interested. I mean, I think about that in relation to kind of the work that we're presenting together, and of course there is the painting aspect to it. And you could even, probably put an argument there with the moving image as well, really, with your virtual self and what have you. I guess then what's, but also this is very kind of, we're almost veering into with these types of projects around kind of social practice and stuff like that. So obviously you have an interest in kind of activating spaces, I guess where I'm getting to with that there. What's your, I know by looking through your stuff, when you first came to us and sharing, you've also had some quite varied work along the way. So, maybe from your influences, maybe give us a little bit of a chat about like the different types of work that you've done as well along the way to get to this point.
Well, yeah, this isn't my first project working with Urban Dream Brokerage. My first one was what called a mentorship, where Leo Jean worked with me, and he came from a performance background, and it really helped me about communicating and talking to people and having discussions with people. So that led me to work on a project called the Lost Futures Exchange, where I parked myself up in a building on Marketplace, which at the time was being run by Biz Dojo, and investigated the history of the place by talking to the people there. So I wasn't necessarily talking to people that knew the place. I was talking to people, they may have known the place when it had been the Rialto Theatre, or have knew people that worked there when it had been Zero or Trade Me. But I was more interested in the stories of what people thought about the place. The stories and feelings and attachments people have to spaces really interests me. And so I've done quite a lot of work where I've made little miniature buildings and put a little video screens inside them and play little animations inside them and get people to look into them and sort of unpack this concept of residue. And it's like a discussion we had the other day down at the Urban Dream Brokerage space, where you said that it had been the Druids building for a start, and then it's had various other lives and manufacturing, and now it's got this different type of manufacturing space, creative manufacturing and support. And that's kind of almost like the big steel beams being put in the back that are new supports, and it's all, you can read into that as well. So I'm very much interested in, I think as I got older, when I got into my late 30s, early 40s, I really started to think about the history of places I've been and the ghosts that were there for me. And so I used to do what I called ghosting. I'd go for walks around Te Aro area at lunchtime and walk around in my memories, and then realize that my memories weren't necessarily true at times. My memories were about other things that I associated with that space. And it's an example I think of is I quite often play cards with my partner, Christina, at night. We'll listen to records, we play cards, just what we do. And when I'm playing cards, it keeps reminding me of going to Okuni and a trip that we went up to Tauranga, and my mum was there, which is about 6 years ago. Keeps reminding me of that trip, which is really strange because I never played cards in Okuni at that trip. I played cards of Okuni 10 years before that with someone completely different. And so there's this really, really how it's like, actually, I've manufactured, that's the nature of memory. It's like that link actually doesn't actually make sense. There is actually, the only reason why that link makes sense is because I was there playing cards, but the people, the time I now remember is not the time, So that's the thing. I was wandering around in the psychogeographical space, in a hauntological sense, hanging lost futures, those I call them, things that haven't happened on spaces, or lost wishes, or things that maybe had happened, or maybe it was something I saw on TV. I don't know. And that's the whole nature of our mediated space. These are all these different things that really intrigue me. And so I've done paintings where of building landscapes, and I don't necessarily tell people why I've chosen those buildings to paint. And the idea is that people come along and go, oh, well, I have that relationship to that space. Or if I put a mysterious figure at the window, for them, and that person, that mysterious figure becomes something for them. So, and another project I've done is I'm also looking at, wandering around in my ghosting state, really much thinking about my mental health as well. So I've also explored my depression. So I did a show 10 years ago called Black Dog Failure at Toi Poniki. And that was an animation show, and it was sort of me going through various stages of dealing with depression, a depressive cycle, and exploring that and being open to people about that. So, yeah, I've tried lots of different things.
Yeah, that's cool. I
can say is I do have a website, markanthony.nz, if anyone wants to go have a look. Yeah.
Well, no, and it's lovely. It's great to also, when you reflect, and I guess that's just a simple point to bring up, that I often end up talking to different artists that we work with. Keeping a website and keeping it just purely an archive of your work. I just want to nod to that because, you've got a great one. But just for anybody that is listening out there that's maybe even starting out in their career, it's such a good tool, like just to keep that archive and remind people and remind yourself. And also at some stage of your career, look back and actually be able to reflect. To go back a bit though, Mark, going back to that type of work you're talking about, and once again thinking about, all these things that are kind of very much at the heart of urban dream brokerage thinking, which is about space, and we've always been an organisation that's been focused on, or really in some ways founded on, how do we enliven our cities, how do we make space for people. And then recently we've been doing, and so like you were saying about the building, the Taranaki Street space that we're in at the moment, and the history of that, thinking about the history of those spaces you're in, and just to acknowledge as well, like I know through our research, we've been that slow, you have to be patient, but also just acknowledging those pre-colonial histories in our city as well, which I think, is something that can often be overlooked. Sometimes that's through accessibility of information, and you have to be patient and take the time to do that. Where I was going with that was that going back to your thing of, I think you used the term hauntology, which I loved. But yeah, it feels like since I've started to gain that knowledge as well, that there's new ghosts, there's like new presence that's become apparent to me in my space. So yeah, I think that's really interesting stuff. And for anybody as well that's listening, that's thinking about urban dream brokerage projects, if you've got projects that are actually, about these kinds of topics and concepts, they're very much the kind of stuff that we enjoy. To carry on there, so that's great. Yes, you've done some really varied work. One of the other things, and you came back, you were talking about a little bit earlier with your time with Leo, But also just to acknowledge, one of the things I noticed when I look back through your stuff, at some point you did become a bit more performative. And of course that relates to the project that we're about to,
Yeah.
there's a performance aspect to what we're about to do. So do you maybe just want to nod to where that change came for you as well?
Yeah, that came about. So I moved to Wellington in 2001 with my first wife, and we both tried to set up businesses as artists. I set up an animation studio, and she set up a printmaking studio, and it didn't work out, unfortunately. And when that fell apart, around 2005, I just went back to art school. I decided, okay, I'm going to do postgrad at Massey I was already working at Massey University at that stage part-time, and that's where, doing postgrad in fine arts, I encountered Hans Kellett, who's also known as Princess Hans, amongst other names, and he was spending 1 year over from Berlin after moving from New Zealand to Berlin, probably 10 years before that. And yeah, he was a performance artist, and he very much opened me up into various traditions of, especially queer concept of theatre, but also just performing as oneself, and also getting in, but then also finding that performative voice, that that loudness or quietness inside you that you can get out there and exist within. And it's something I'd been playing with for years. I'd done radio, I'd done various little bits of performative work, and at exhibition openings, we're being silly. I only one with Beck Coogan, another contemporary of mine at art school, where at art opening, we just decided to act really, really odd as the way of opening. I just trying to ignore everyone. We were ignoring everyone while we were busy opening the space. So there's another person that
Really Coogan. So I was just about to jump in and say, if nobody knows, you should know, like, the power that is.
Yeah, just amazing. But Hans also really pushed me into that space. And so I've now got into sort of things like, I feel uncomfortable talking to people one-on-one, but put me in front of an audience, I can actually talk a lot better, which is really quite strange. But yeah, so be able to hand into that performative space and realizing that actually a painting is a residue of performance, an animation is so residue of performance. The performative is actually every single frame, and it's the residue of that performance of every single frame. All those drawings, all those paintings, all those little movements. And then there's performative aspect when I went into doing stuff with children's television, where there's voice acting and the performative area of that, and writing the scripts for the little characters, and how those little characters would act. And there was a little book I read in the late 90s called Acting for Animators that really influenced that sort of thing. So yeah, I've always, as an artist, I am a performer. My real name is Mark Anthony Steele Smith, but I go by Mark Anthony Smith. But I was born Mark Andrew Smith. So there's this taking on of personas as well as an artist. So that sort of exploration has sort of come through in this latest work, or this latest series of works. So this is the second of the series, where another step backwards. So part of my day job is making video and audio production for various schools and colleges at Massey University. Might be out on a farm one day, might be in a chemistry lab another day, filming people doing food experiments. So there's that sort of thing. And I started looking at AI tools, and especially in the media creation space. And first of all, it freaked me out. My initial feeling was, oh my God, there goes my job. There are now tools to make avatars of people and all the rest, clone voices. But the more I looked at it, the more I realized that it's not there yet, and it will never have the main thing, which is he tangata, the people. The main thing is you might be able to make a creation of a person, but it will never have the right feelings. It will never respond to a student. It will never spend time with a student. It will never end up sleeping on that student's floor when it's drunk. Or anything like that, that really started to intrigue me even more. So I started playing with a GPT and realizing that I could actually create my own version of myself. Uploaded years of blog writing, essays, my thesis, masters, interviews I'd done, and all that, fed it in as text, and then asked it to tell me about myself. And it made all these jumps of work that I'd forgotten about. It reminded me of works I hadn't thought about, made links between works I never saw. It also wrote in my voice, so I could actually get it to tune out essays on myself. But also made me realize, it made me actually stop and write a lot more. I spent a lot more time writing by investigating this GPT thing, this AI thing that was based on what I thought. And that was quite confronting for a start. But then I realized, actually, this thing could actually tell me what to do. It can actually tell me what to paint. So my first project, the AI show, I got my AI model to tell me what to paint. So every day it gave me instructions of a painting, a prompt. So instead of me prompting AI was prompting me, I was doing the painting, and then at the end of the day, the day would be maybe 2-3 hours of painting time, it would look at the work and evaluate it and set the price for it. And the various things came out of that. I realized that AI didn't quite understand the nature of paint, didn't quite understand layering. It's like, do a misty layering. It's like, actually, no, can't do that. I've got 2 hours, it's wet. Things like that. So that show was at Meanwhile earlier this year. It was a great show. Not a lot of people saw it in the flesh. A lot of interest online. I made little short clips every day, time lapses of all the paintings. It made me realize that I could do this again, but maybe let's see if we could AI to really get in there and tell me every 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, what to do. So this next show, which I put together an idea, came to Jason with it and said, hey, AI is now going to not only tell me what the painting should be, it's then going to tell me what to do every 15 minutes after the start of the painting. It's going to look at the painting and go, now you need to do this. Look at the painting, now do this. And it's taken a while to get that trained working properly. First of all, one of my early experiments with that, massive canvas, and it told me what to paint. And then 15 minutes in, it was starting to tell me to do fine detail on such and such, and then fine detail on such and such. And actually, no, we need to teach it that for a start, we need to just block out things for a start, and then define things, then push and pull, and then maybe the fine detail comes towards the end. So it's just teaching it how to control me. And that's it. It's about control. This project, Human Robot, taken from the word roboto, which means slave, which is where we get the word robot. And I am the automation of the AI. I'm supposed to do what the AI does. There's always going to be the issue that I am an artist and I do have my own way of doing things, and there's that conflict there. But I think that's the conflict in labour as well, and the whole idea of paying or forcing someone to do something that you're not doing yourself. You're going to get their version of it. So yeah, with the Human Robot show, every 2 days, the virtual Mark Antony, the mind, will give a prompt for a painting, and the paintings are quite large, 40 by 30 inches. And then over the next 2 days, 5 hours per day, I will paint one painting with interjections every 15 minutes telling me what to do next.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there, Mark. That was good. Can we just we just take a right step back?
Yep.
So back to the AI. I mean, that's great. And so for everybody that is listening to this, like Mark's just done a great, not just rundown of AI, but also the show itself, and we'll come back to that there. But if we just go back a bit with the AI itself, you know, first of all, I know for us as UDB that it's a well, you know, to borrow some of your terminology earlier, it's a crunchy topic, you know, like it's one that's really like prevalent in the world. You know, there's some people have concerns about, obviously the main concern is about these things becoming sentient one day and, you know, developing conscious and all of that. The other big concern, of course, is around energy use and what have you. And then, you know, within the arts and creative space itself, there's also concerns about, you know, probably some of what we're talking about here with this project around authorship and all those types of things. But first of all, I just want to acknowledge that, you know, as UDB, I think we've always tried to pride ourselves on stepping forward into the people that are presenting with these topics for a start. And so for us, that was also another, oh, right, here's a playful way of examining this quite crunchy topic. So just to step back to that there, and if we just chat a little bit more about, like, you know, AI and kind of, I guess, some thoughts around its impact around creative industry and like the arts and what have you. I know that you've got some thoughts around that there. Yeah, what do you got to say about that before we come back and actually get into the you know, the human robot itself?
First of all, am I scared of AI taking the space of artists, creative people? Somewhat, yep. But I kind of try and think of this in a historical perspective. Was the sign writer scared of the printer? Was the illuminator scared of the printing press? There we go. There's a massive change. The creation of printing press. How many people were burnt at stake?
Oh, because possibly one of the most political interventions in human history, right?
So there is the start. You got the printing press. The advent of photography changed a lot of things. There's all these various things that have come along, technologies that have thrown things upside down, and AI is another one of them. Maybe it might be the biggest one, who knows? But all through that, people still paint. People will still spend time illuminating books as such. The handwriting has not gone away. Even photography is in danger by AI, but we take more photos now than ever before. If we look at some really ancient technology, ceramics. How big is ceramics now? After COVID, it's almost impossible to get into the Wellington Potters Society. They have a massive waiting list. That's nothing to do with AI. That is fingers in clay. And that AI is not going to stop us being human. I don't think it will. I really don't think it will stop us being human. It gives us a chance to investigate what being human is. But also, we're also still going to want to go out and push the lawnmower around the back lawn. Well, we might not really want to, but it is. There is that catharsis in that as well. There's still going to be our connection to nature, all that thing, and it's still going to be he tangata. The people are still going to exist, and it's what's really obvious here at university is with AI being able to be involved and really get into the mess of subject matter expertise, you still need people to guide students through. Otherwise, why are they coming to university at all? They just could watch something on YouTube. We come to university because we want to be there with people. We come to art school not just because we're going to learn from artists and the rest, but because we're going to spend maybe half our day sitting around the studio talking shit about things. And that's why a studio space exists. Yeah,
and in some ways, these things that you're talking about, all of these interventions, and you know, maybe this is actually a real positive, like as people's lives, and I think about that, you know, you're talking about since COVID, you can't get into the Potters Association. Also that disconnect from our technological lives, full stop, right? That people still crave that there.
Yep.
Like you say, maybe it's going out, putting your hands in the dirt in your garden. Maybe going to your potter's club. Maybe it's picking up paintbrushes or something like that. People still love to go sing, don't they? I
Yep,
was just watching an
exactly.
ad last night for pub sing, like all go along and sit in a hall and
Yep.
sing along together and stuff. Yeah, I do agree with that there. I guess then it's part of this project too, and just to some of those thoughts there. Part of this project, getting right into the nitty gritty of it as well, is people are welcome to come along and express these thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Like they can
Yes.
come in and there might be a
We're
book or so, like
we're
some
going to
way that you
we're
can
going to
like,
have various different ways for people to express these thoughts. One is to talk to the virtual version of myself. So there's a AI interactive video, large head thing of me you can talk to, and it will give a very party line of what AI thinks should be happening, and it's got a bit of my sardonic sense of humour going there as well. It's quite funny, except it says everything deadpan, you can, which is it's quite a freaky thing. I'm going to put some links and the rest up on the website as we set up, and so people can actually see what this is like. There's also going to be pen and paper for people to write things down, and also a web form where people can put things on a web form as well. So there's going to be 3 different ways for people to and also another way is that there will be times when the human robot is allowed. So there's terms of engagement you will massive poster you will see when you come into the space, that the human robot will be actually allowed to stop and talk to you about what it thinks, what the body thinks of this whole process. So, and the idea is that I will stick in character as much as possible as the labourer and talk about how I feel about this whole situation.
it's great. I'm just thinking for people too, like it would be great to get that interaction. So do come down, like yes, it is a gig of performance and painting that can almost be viewed like a show in itself. This kind of awkward dance between you and the robot. I think about the terminology that we've come up with of machine versus mind, a favourite being algorithm versus flesh. That there is that kind of like performance, that dance happening between you two. That is, just thinking as audience, you can come in and just watch that interaction like happen.
Yeah, I've got this whole P.T. Barnum sort of line going there as well, sort of the man versus machine. Yeah, and it is. And there's all these other undertones of looking at political economy and labour and as well. But I'm not being explicit, but I think it's very implicit as well. It's sort of this whole idea of manufacturing of art as well.
Yeah, no, that's crunchy for the word of the time.
Yeah.
And just thinking as well, like another aspect that I really love is actually like if we strip away everything else, just the chance for public to come and watch a painter.
Yeah.
Because, so often, like with so many art forms, and I've experienced this myself in the past, you're creating quite often like in your own solo environment or a small environment. And then, there's the show, there's the heroic end of it where we all like, then show the finished product. But actually, that fascination for people to actually just be able to come along and watch somebody paint.
Oh, well, see how much I struggle. How much it is a fight. How much, even though I'm going to be told what to do, how much mental labour is involved as well. See how my technique isn't necessarily the best as a painter. I think I'm a competent painter. Some people think I'm better than competent, but they tend to be people that buy my work. But I find most paintings I do I hate, even if I might like a little bit of them. And yeah, I'm going to make some paintings I really don't like, but they might be good. I don't know yet, and I have no idea what subject matter is. I have a feeling that AI, the discussions I've been having with it, is that it's going to very much be very introspective in the whole concept of the human robot, and human labour, and yeah, I have a feeling that's the bent it's going to go on.
Oh, no, that's real interesting. And I guess this is a good chance, Mark, Pledge me, pledge me.
Oh,
So
yeah,
just
yeah.
to
Yes.
acknowledge, we've got a Pledge Me going on this project, a Pledge Me campaign. Look up Human Robot on the wonderful Pledge Me thing. Of course, it's a platform where there's often an exchange.
Mm.
You are free just to give a donation, which is great, but you can also purchase a first prompt for the day. So I think there's 6 of them available. But then also, because I'm just acknowledging the painting, you can go on there and buy one of these paintings.
Yeah, you
There's
can
also
buy a
the other
painting before it's
content.
even done.
Before it's done, that's right. Yeah.
So the top level is that you have first choice of all 6. The second level down is you have second choice of the remaining 5. And then the third level down is you'll be lucky to get what you get, mate. So, but that, yeah, there's that, and there's also, yeah, just the feed the robot level, which is just give me some money to help out. I'm not getting paid to do this project, so this is all been coming out of my own pocket, my own family's pocket. So, yeah, please, yeah.
Feed the robot.
I find it hard to ask for funding because I see there's so many great things out there that need supporting, but if you feel like it, you can.
Yeah, no, it's good, and some people already have, which is
Yeah,
great.
they have, and everyone that gives, no matter how little, will get a priority email every day of the project. You'll get to see the first export of the time lapse. So it'll be there's a time lapse going every 10 seconds. A frame is being taken of the work. So you'll be able to see the full raw of that and get the first insights of what AI is thinking of and the instructions and all the rest. Not the final polished bit that goes out to the website.
Hey, so that just to also nod to the project, we have a space which is the VLA showroom or ex-VLA showroom, the Victoria Lane Apartments, which is on the corner of Victoria and Dixon Streets, right behind Te Awaha, soon to be lost, sadly, but anyway, the space is there. It's a great space. Those familiar with Urban Dream Brokerage will know it because we've had exhibitions and performance and so forth in that space over the last couple of years. And just a quick shout out to Willis Bond as our property partner on that. Thanks for coming through with that there. So that's the location where we're going to be. We're going from September 15th, which is Monday, September 15th, through to Sunday, September 28th. In that space, it's pretty much open from 9:30 to 5:30 each day.
Except for the 21st, which the robot's allowed the day off.
Oh yeah, cool, 21st day off, that's great. But if we can just then, I just wanted to jump those details in there while we were talking about details. Don't forget about the Pledge Me if you're listening to this here. But then to jump back, because I was just thinking as you were talking about time lapse and you were talking about, we've obviously got the robot and there's got to be a microphone there and there's all of this stuff going on. Obviously, there's quite a tech setup to all of this as well. And I'm just thinking as I say that there, I'm thinking back now in the chat today about you talking about your dad being a TV technician. That how interesting is that? And now here you are kind of, so, even like pulling that together, has that had its struggles?
I don't know. I've been taking it in my stride. I think as I get older, I get a little bit better at planning these things, sort of start off slow, taking off a few bits and pieces, playing around with a few things, and then as you get closer, you put a little bit more effort in. And because I was working with AI, and I know of AI's capability with scripting, even though I have a little bit of knowledge in web and Python and the rest, I was able to get AI to write the scripting for me. And so that was not a case of interrogation, talking to the AI, trying it out, learning along with it as it sort of taught me and the rest. And it was like having your own coding expert available to interrogate the whole way through. And that's been amazing. I do want to acknowledge the fact that we are using a lot of energy, and I'm unsure of how that goes in the future, and I'm hoping that there can be some decent levers pulled in making sure that our energy future is well secured, not just on coal and stuff like that. But we are living already in a high energy existence. I do find it hard when someone on Instagram pulls me up for using AI and the amount of energy it's using when they are on that platform.
All sorts of contradictions with
Yeah.
that stuff around.
Yeah,
isn't
and
there?
I think like a lot of things that we have to deal with to be modern humans, we have to acknowledge and think about what could we support in the future. But I don't think it should stop me from playing with AI, exploring it. I have a feeling that this particular bundle of interest is unfurling, and I'll be off playing with something different soon enough. I think it's worth interrogating this whole concept.
Well, it's the nature of artists as well, isn't it? Do you know, I mean,
Yeah.
in some ways you could look at AI as a material to be playing with. You know, that actually it's another material out there that, you know, some artists are going to be interested in investigating, some artists aren't, some people are going to relate to, some aren't, do you know?
Yeah, well, that's the most important thing that all my work comes back to is play. For me, it's play.
But actually, that's actually a really lovely spot to just come back. And so, coming back to the project, that also struck us as UDB about the whole proposal, that there is an element of play here. Like, you know, you're literally walking into an experiment when you come to this project,
Yep.
right? Like, that's what it is. And so, you know, for anybody that's interested, that's listening to this and gotten to this point of the podcast, you know, if you're going to come along, think about that's what you're walking into is an experiment, is a performance in itself.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, no, that's a nice little point to bring in there.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice place to wrap up while we're still feeling playful.
Nice, very good, Mark. Well, listen, thanks for that. That's excellent. So that's cool. So look, just to go back, I'll let you do it, but maybe if you want to finish up with a final blurb of what we're doing, where we're doing it,
Yep.
you know,
So-
relevant stuff.
So Human Robot, it's a live painting experiment where AI controls a human to make paintings live in public. We are going to be in a space that was a pretend apartment at ground level. It's quite interesting. There's some hauntology for you there, lost futures, etc. And I will be there every day, Monday through to Saturday, 15th through the 20th of September, and then again from the 22nd through to the 27th, and also on the 28th will be our closing day. The robot will not be operational that day. It will just be the residue of the 6 artworks and a few videos and the rest for people to look at. So come down from 10 a.m. every day. I'll be in robot mode through to about 4 p.m. And after 4 p.m, robot is allowed to talk about things with you if you want to as well. Or you can come and chat to the AI with me.
It's excellent. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, that's great. So come on down and join us. That's a great way to sum things up. If you have been listening all the way through, thanks for listening, and check us all out on our relevant websites and social media, and we look forward to seeing you all at Human Robot.
Humanrobot.nz.